Hey, Jared from Photo to Canvas here, and today I'm going to talk about how I make my stretcher bars for my canvases. Now, I buy stretcher bar molding in sticks. I buy 10-foot lengths. If you are somebody that's going to like Blix or something like that and you're buying pre-cut stretcher bars, this video is not really going to apply to you. Those stretcher bars are a lot more expensive. They're nice, but I often don't use standard lengths. So I need to be able to cut my stuff custom, and it's way cheaper when you go through as much as I do to buy it by the foot, by 10-foot sticks, and then cut it up and assemble each one separately. Now, the first thing to do is to figure out what stretcher bar you want to use. I have 4 stretcher bars here that are some common ones that I use. All are from different vendors. I use either a local place for the most expensive, nicest bars, but they're milled in Madras, Oregon, and I like to keep the business within as local as possible if I can, but it's really expensive, but they're really nice. I also get bars from Linen Liners out of LA and from Breathing Color in Houston, which both make great bars, but they're really expensive for the freight, for the shipping to get them to me here in Oregon. So the first bar is the Econo bar from Breathing Color. This one is 3/4 thick. It's not very wide, so I only like to use this for 8x10s and 9x12s. Anything bigger, I would worry about it stretching. I don't really like the sharp corner it has, but it's great for inexpensive prints. This one's actually alder. It's not finger jointed pine, which the rest of my stuff is, because this batch was custom milled for me during the pandemic when lumber was really hard to come by. But generally, I get stuff that's this profile. It's just made out of pine, 3/4 by about 2 inches. So this stuff is much stronger. So for a longer run, a lot of artists prefer the 3/4 look when it's hanging on the wall. So I like to have something where I can still make a larger print with the 3/4 and still have it nice and sturdy. It's thick enough to put crossbars in, though it is kind of a pain in the butt. This is my most standard bar. This one is from Breathing Color, but it's the same profile as what you get from Linen Liners. It's got 1.5 inch thick, 1.8 inch wide. This one I use for almost everything if I'm buying my bars outside of Oregon, depending on, what the prices are like with my local shop, and I have to constantly check because lumber prices still fluctuate. So the thing that I really like about this one is it has a pretty rounded corner, and that's really forgiving when it comes to cracks in paints and in canvases, but it also just adds a pretty nice look. So this is a great bar. This is basically the same version, but it's my local one. You can see the finger joint here in the pine. This one has a bit of a sharper corner, and this one is a true 1.5 inch. These ones are actually 1 3/8 inches, but they're about the same thickness. The funky thing with this is this has this notch out for their bracing bars, and I use bracing bars that I get at like Lowe's or Home Depot because it's way cheaper. But I just mount it to this surface and it works fine. This stuff comes incredibly straight. Pretty much every stick is usable all 10 feet. So it's really, really nice, but it's a premium price. But I do prefer to keep it local, and my local rep is awesome and is really tries with his prices to keep my business. So most of the time I foresee myself using this stuff in the future. But again, I do wish it had a little bit of a softer corner here and here. This is the local. These are the ones from Breathing Color and Linen Liners. These ones local, Breathing Color. Now for my cross bracing, I use this stuff, which is just 1x2 from Home Depot or from Lowe's. You're never gonna see this, so it doesn't need to be a finger jointed pine. I pick through it, I try to get the straightest stuff I can, and it works great, and it's really cheap. So the next thing to do is to figure out your size. Now, when I am printing, I like to print my prints at the actual dimension that the customer orders. I size my bars about 1/8 inch each direction small, just to make sure that none of that edge shows on the face, no matter what. And nobody's ever gonna complain about it being 1/8 inch small. Bigger prints, you might wanna go a little smaller. Something to keep in mind is when you're printing really large, like if I'm printing with the 60-inch machine and I'm printing something 6 or 7 feet long, it's canvas, it will shrink. So a lot of the time I will measure my bars after as the canvas shrinks a little bit. And if I'm printing a 6-foot long print, it might end up a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch short. So you can compensate by enlarging your image a little bit before you print it. But I don't generally do that, as people, again, don't really care about the 1/2 inch short. So I will run my print, then I'll measure it, and I'll cut my bars specifically to the print. Now for the corner attachment. Once you have your bars cut, I have a couple of frames here that I'm going to show you how to make. For ease for the video, I'm going to start with this 20 by 30. So I have 2 pieces that are 19 7/8, 2 pieces that are 29 7/8. Now, to attach the corners, a lot of places have really nice, large V-nail presses. It's a giant machine that pushes an L-shaped piece of metal into this corner to make it nice and secure and hold it at a 45-degree angle. Those machines are giant and really expensive. I'm a carpenter. I like working with nail guns. So I found this gun on Amazon. I actually have another one that I prefer to this one, but it's loaded with shorter staples, nails. You can find reviews for both of those guns on my YouTube page. This is awesome. It does the same thing, but you just need an air compressor and a hose. You don't need a giant press, and they're cheap. They're like 150 bucks. So to start, I like to put one nail on the top just to hold its shape. Do one here. They come with guides to hold it in the corner, but I don't like to use them because I go in different places. Okay, so now when I'm doing this, the top of the canvas is facing up. You need a nice big flat work surface. Because this bump on the corner right here, when you staple like this upside down, the boards won't sit flat. So that's why I personally like to put a staple in the top first, because the bottoms are flat. So this way everything sits flat. You can get a staple in each corner, so it's going to hold it together. Then I go around to the back side with my speed square. Hold the speed square, 90-degree corner, put 2, one towards the center, one towards the outside. Around. Just hold this at a 90-degree angle. All right. So next, you need corner bracing. Carpenter's trick. Measure corner to corner, 35 7/8, 35 7/8. That number needs to be the same. That means your rectangle is square. It means that it's not like this, or it's not like this or like this. Outside corner, or inside to inside, but outside's easier. Outside to outside, the numbers need to be the same. If they're not, you can kind of push it and adjust it and use your corner bracing to hold it square, because that is very, very important. For my corner bracing, I use that 1x2 from Lowe's. I generally get the curvy, crappy pieces, and I cut these little 6-inch 45 on each end, and I use a 1/4-inch stapler to attach them. Now I know it's square, but I'm going to continue to check the square throughout. I don't like the long corner bracing that you see on some store-bought frames. And I'll tell you why. Because when you use those braces, if this isn't in the exact right place, I found that it can push the middle out. If you have a bar like this, and this is pushed too much this way, it can push this center bar out and make this not straight. So I prefer to have a bracing this way if I need it size-wise, and then just to have these little corner guys kind of like gussets to hold the corners locked square. I only put a center brace if it's 3 feet or more, and I only put a corner brace if it's 16 by 20 or above. The smaller stuff doesn't get one, there's not room, and you just don't really need it. But I prefer to put a center brace 36 inches or more each direction. This is a 20 by 30, so it is not gonna get any center brace. This guy I don't like it flush with the back because it makes it harder for me to stretch. I don't like it flush with the front because I don't want it to be seen to ever hit the actual surface of the canvas. So I go about a 1/4 inch back. Couple of staples. Check the square. 36 or 35 and 7/8, 35 and 7/8. These staples are 1/4 inch wide by 1.25 inches long. I think they're like 18 gauge. Yep, 18 gauge. This frame is done. So bigger frames, I do the exact same way. I'm just gonna add center bracing. My center bracing, I use these boards. Remember, like I said, halfway if it's 36 inches or above. If it's over 6 feet, you're gonna want 2. I use a Craig jig for my connections. Some people just toenail little pins, little nails. I'm not a fan of that. As a carpenter, Craig jig system for cabinetry is absolutely awesome. It allows you to drill this hole with a jig and you put a screw in, essentially like this, screw down there, and it's a really, really solid connection. So I will show you when I build this bigger frame how to put the center bracing in. All right, we're back. The big frame is corner nailed, V-nailed together. I have the centers marked where I want this guy to go. I'm really tall, so this is easy. If you're not so tall, you might want to clamp this down. This is my screw gun with a square drive for the Craig jig. I'm going to put a screw. You actually want to be careful that you don't drive those too hard. I have this nice adjustment, which was not adjusted there, to slow it down, so that screw went a little bit fast. For me, you can strip them out if you have it set to the torque too high. Okay, now these ones are going to go this way. So measure our halfway points. Let's see, we got 25 3/4. I like to just do this on the flat surface and push these down so they're flush. The table holds them at the right depth. Screw the center. Screw the center. All right, our bracing is in. Now we're gonna do that corner to corner check. 88 1/4. 88 1/4. We are good. I'm going to attach my corner bracing from the front. Corner bracing. That's it. This frame is ready to go. I like to have the Craig attachments for the cross bracing on the back. I don't cover the backs of my canvases, and that way if the canvas ever stretches, needs to be a little tighter, you can always pull these out, cut some longer ones to stretch it out a bit more. So yeah, that's my process. I hope this was helpful. If it was, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and of course, as always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. I'll also do some videos with how I stretch. So this is the first part. Now you got your frames. Thanks for watching.